This is English Conversation Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to English Conversation Podcast. I'm Jim.
And I'm Wendy. Today we're diving into something really exciting, intermediate level conversations in English.
That's right. If you're at a B1 or B2 level, this episode is made for you. We'll explore how to make your conversations more natural and engaging.
We'll share some fantastic tips to help you sound more fluent and confident when chatting with native speakers or other English learners.
Plus, we've got some real-life examples and common situations you might face. Whether you're at work, traveling, or just making new friends, we've got you covered.
So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's start this amazing journey together.
Before we begin, remember, making mistakes is totally normal and actually helps you learn faster.
Absolutely. So don't worry about being ideal. Just focus on communicating and having fun with the language.
All right, are you ready to take your English conversations to the next level?
Let's do this.
Okay, so our first conversation today is between two coworkers who are meeting for the first time at a new job.
Right. We have Sarah, who's been working at the marketing company for about 6 months, and David, who just started this week.
This is a really common situation. You know when you're the new guy at work and trying to fit in with your colleagues?
Exactly. They're having lunch together in the office cafeteria, and Sarah is being really helpful, showing David around and giving him some insider tips about the job.
What I love about this conversation is how natural it sounds. They talk about work, but also share some casual details about their backgrounds and interests.
And notice how they use small talk to build a connection, talking about where they're from, their hobbies, and other similar things. It's a great example of how to be friendly while still maintaining a professional coworker relationship.
Listen carefully to how they ask follow-up questions and show genuine interest in each other's answers. That's what makes conversations flow smoothly.
All right, let's listen to Sarah and David.
That was such a natural conversation. There are so many great examples of intermediate-level English skills happening there. Let's break down some of the key elements that made this conversation work so well.
It felt so real.
Exactly. First thing I noticed, both Sarah and David used what we call conversation starters really effectively. Sarah opened with, "You must be David, the new guy," which is a great way to introduce yourself when you already know something about the person. It's friendly, but not too formal.
And David responded so naturally.
Right. He didn't just say yes. He added, "That's me," and then immediately showed interest by saying he was hoping to meet people from other departments. This is a classic intermediate skill. Expanding your answers and keeping the conversation going. Now let's talk about how they handled the topic transitions. Sarah asked, "How's your first week going?" and then immediately made it relatable by sharing her own experience. "I remember feeling completely lost when I started here." This technique of sharing similar experiences is huge for building connections.
It made David feel comfortable right away.
Absolutely. And notice how they used follow-up questions throughout the conversation. When David mentioned his previous job was stressful, Sarah didn't just say, "Oh, okay." She said, "I totally get that," and connected it to her own experience. Then when she shared her journalism background, David asked more about it. This back-and-forth questioning shows genuine interest and keeps conversations alive at intermediate level. This is what separates good speakers from great ones.
The work-life balance topic was interesting too.
Great observation. They touched on professional topics, but in a casual way. They talked about departments working together, upcoming campaigns, but mixed it with personal stuff like hobbies and cooking classes. This balance between professional and personal is essential in workplace conversations. And here's something really important. Notice how they made future plans together. Sarah invited David to Friday drinks, and she offered to teach him cooking. Making concrete future plans is how you turn a nice conversation into an actual friendship or working relationship.
The language felt so smooth and natural.
That's because they used a lot of conversational connectors and expressions that intermediate speakers should definitely learn. Things like honestly, to be honest. Actually, speaking of which, and that sounds amazing. These little phrases make your English sound much more fluent and natural. Also, did you catch how they handled topics they weren't interested in? When Sarah mentioned she's more of an indoor person, after David talked about hiking, she didn't dismiss his interest. She just redirected to her own hobbies. That's great conversational skill right there. Now let's hear the next dialogue. What a beautiful example of supportive family communication. This conversation between Emma and Wendy shows us so many important aspects of intermediate English, especially when discussing serious topics with people we care about.
The tone was so warm and understanding.
Exactly. One of the first things that stands out is how Emma approached this sensitive topic. Instead of being demanding or critical, she started with, "I've been thinking about your situation, and I just want to understand what you're thinking." This is such a mature way to begin difficult conversations. Showing genuine interest rather than judgment, Wendy.
Seemed really comfortable opening up.
That's because Emma created a safe space for honest communication. Notice how she validated his feelings throughout the conversation. When Wendy expressed uncertainty, she called it mature rather than problematic. This technique of reframing concerns as strengths is incredibly powerful in English conversations. Now let's look at some excellent intermediate language patterns they used. Emma frequently used phrases like, "That's not a bad idea at all. I'm glad you're being realistic," and "That actually sounds very mature." These are great examples of how to give positive feedback while having serious discussions.
The way they shared stories was really natural.
Absolutely. When Wendy asked about Emma's experience, she didn't just give a simple answer. She told a complete story about changing from teaching to nursing, which made her advice much more relatable and credible. This storytelling technique is essential for intermediate speakers. Don't just state facts. Share experiences that support your points, and notice how they handle disagreement respectfully. When Emma expressed concern about waiting too long, Wendy didn't get defensive. Instead, he acknowledged her worry and offered a solution. Community college, this shows emotional maturity in English conversation.
They made concrete future arrangements too.
Great observation. Just like in our first conversation, they ended by making specific commitments. Let's sit down this weekend and look at websites together. This turns a discussion into actionable steps at intermediate level. Learning to make concrete plans in English is crucial for real-life conversations. The vocabulary level here was perfect for B1, B2 learners. They used expressions like maintain forward momentum, financial stability, and academic mindset. These are exactly the kinds of phrases that intermediate students should be incorporating into their speech to sound more sophisticated. And that wraps up today's episode on intermediate level conversations. We've covered two really different scenarios, workplace interactions and family discussions. But both showed us the same core principles of good English communication.
Both conversations felt so authentic and relatable.
Exactly. The key takeaway here is that intermediate English isn't just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about connecting with people, showing genuine interest, and building relationships through language. Remember the main techniques we highlighted today? Asking meaningful follow-up questions, sharing personal experiences to create connections, using conversation starters that show you care, and always making concrete future plans when appropriate.
And don't forget about those natural expressions and connectors we mentioned.
Write words like actually, honestly, speaking of which. And that sounds like these little phrases will make your English sound much more fluent and native. Like start incorporating them into your daily conversations.
The most important thing is to just start having more conversations in English.
Absolutely. Don't wait until your English is good enough. Start practicing these skills now. Whether it's with coworkers, family members, or new friends, every conversation is an opportunity to improve. Before we go, we want to remind you that making mistakes is completely normal and actually helps you learn faster. The people in today's conversations weren't using complicated grammar or fancy vocabulary. They were just communicating naturally and effectively.
That's what real English sounds like.
Exactly. So our challenge for you this week is simple. Have at least one meaningful conversation in English. Ask follow-up questions. Share a personal story. And try to use some of those natural expressions we discussed today.
We'd love to hear about your experiences.
That's right. And don't forget to subscribe to Jim and Wendy for more practical English learning content. We release new episodes every week with real conversations and useful tips for intermediate learners.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep conversations going, and remember, you're doing great. I'm Jim.
And I'm Wendy. See you next.